Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome back to the Business of Apparel podcast. Last week, I took you through a little bit of our crazy moving story. My husband and I have moved 12 different times together. So we've been together since 2007. And if we do the math, that's 14 years. We've done 12 different moves together, and there is at least one more on the horizon. So I walked you through last week how insane we are moving 11 different times from Ohio all the way to California. And what I wanted to talk through today was part 2 of our crazy moving story, which is this latest move that we did where we moved from California back to Colorado. And it ended up being our 12th move together. We always get made fun of. So we have Kyle's like very best friend in the world is a colonel in the Army. And their family, obviously being military, they have moved a ton over the years. And I think we have actually beat them in how many times we have moved. I have no idea why we feel like we need to be so nomadic, but we kind of just always have. We've always kind of been off to the next adventure. And so what I wanted to do for you today too is give you some of my best advice when it comes to moving. So if you are planning on moving anytime soon, or you've moved before and you remember just how terrible it was, or maybe something didn't go right, because we have moved so many different times, I wanted to give some little nuggets today on what some good information is on the way of moving. Number one, I want to throw out a huge shout out to Atlas Van Lines, who is the moving company that we used for this move. Now, moving from state to state can be really expensive. It can also be extremely stressful. And having a moving company that you can trust is something that I think is super valuable. To be honest with you, I don't remember who moved us from Ohio to Texas when we did that move. And mostly because if you recall from last week, Fossil handled a lot of that move for me and the logistics. So it was kind of like all taken care of. I don't think I was really like on my game figuring out the planning of that. So I wish I could remember that company because they were really great too. We had a lot of success with them, like very few broken items. They were on time, super friendly, very professional. I wish I could remember. If I can think of it, I'll send over the show notes to Box 7 Media so that they can add them to the notes. But for now, I just can't remember. When we moved from Texas to Colorado, we used Mayflower Moving Company, and they were actually also very good. The team that they sent to pack up all of our stuff was fantastic. They did a really good job making sure that everything was wrapped and packed properly. We did have a few broken moving items, and I think during that move, we had some delivery issues. So usually what they'll do is they'll give you like a window of time where you can expect to have your stuff moved or delivered to you in your new location. And I want to say Mayflower was like an entire week late. So we had some issues getting all of our stuff when we were hoping to get our stuff. And if you've ever moved like that before and you're living on like an air mattress or you're living in a hotel and you've got like just a living situation that isn't ideal, you know how hard it can be to have like an extra week without your own belongings. So that one was kind of a bummer. When we moved from Colorado to California, I am not going to mention the name of this company because I don't want any kind of bad pushback on this, but they were terrible. I would never use that company ever again. Again, maybe if you guys are listening to this and you really want to know the name of the company, send me a direct message. You can go to unmarkedstreet.com/contact and you're like, I was listening to your podcast episode and you were talking about this company that was terrible. I really want to know who not to use when I go for my move. Contact me that way. But I don't want this out into the world where like I don't know, defamation lawsuits or things that I just don't need in my life. So, everything was broken. Okay. During that move, they came to the house, and one of the things like that happened, this is just a really good example of like the kinds of things that happened even during our pack. One of the guys opened the drawer that had like my food processor in it. and the blades for a food processor are pretty sharp, and he accidentally cut himself on one of the food processor blades. And instead of like going to get himself cleaned up and putting a band-aid on or like even mentioning it to anybody, he packed up the rest of the kitchen bleeding everywhere. Like he had bloody fingers. He bled all over everything. When we started opening boxes, there were like fingerprint blood spots on all of our dishes. We washed and sanitized those dishes in like the hottest dishwasher setting like 3 times before we were willing to use them again. It was the most disgusting thing. And then when they actually arrived at our place and we started unpacking everything, so much of our stuff was broken. Like the way that they packed everything up, everything was just terrible. And so we ended up filing a really big insurance claim on that move because of just how bad they packed everything. They ended up taking a bunch of our like furniture and boxes and like pushing them across the floor instead of using proper dollies. And so the house that we were trying to sell in Colorado like ended up with a bunch of really bad scrapes all over the floor because of the way that they were handling it. Again, if you're interested in knowing who that company was, reach out to me. I'll be happy to tell you, but I'm not going to put it here on the podcast. Atlas Van Lines was fantastic. The crew that showed up for us in Santa Cruz, the way that they packed everything was amazing. The guys were super, super nice, really willing to like use. We had a bunch of like electronics that we wanted to use original boxes for. We had saved some of the original boxes. And so we knew that that would be the best way to pack them. And so they were super happy to do all of that. They did a fantastic job. Everything that we've unpacked since, we have had 0 broken items. Absolutely 0. It is amazing to me. We have not gone through a move yet where we have had 0 broken items, including the moves where we packed ourselves and really wanted to be careful with some items. Even those moves, we've opened a few and like, oh, a glass is broken or something like that. In this one, I'm so super impressed at how well they did because everything has come intact. So Atlas Van Lines is my number 1 recommendation if you are looking for a cross-country move. I know they do some intrastate moves too. Like when we were looking a couple of years ago to potentially move to Southern California, they were an option for us too, to move from Northern to Southern California. So it's not just like cross-country, but they are definitely a recommendation that I give you. So we decided to start thinking about selling our house honestly in 2022. We came out here to Colorado in 2022, met with our real estate agent who's here, who's amazing. Hello, Megan. Megan is awesome. And she has just been helping us for the last several years really figure out what the next steps are for us. We came out in 2022. We looked at some homes and we actually even put in some offers on a couple of different homes, but didn't actually get any of the houses. And so since then, we've actually been considering the move from Santa Cruz to Colorado. And it's been a long couple of years as we've tried to figure out what's going on with the market, when would be a good time to do it. There were a lot of fluctuations out in California, especially in Santa Cruz. Our real estate agents, we had a couple different real estate agents while we were out there. And a lot of them like to tell us like whatever San Jose is doing, Santa Cruz kind of follows. And so we would watch San Jose do like really, really well in the housing market. And we would kind of contact our real estate agents and say, what do you think? Is this the right time? And in 2023, they said, yes, we think this is the right time. We listed the house and nobody came to see it. It was the most bizarre thing. In hindsight, we think it was a lack of marketing and a lack of knowledge of the area that our real estate agent at the time had, and which was just really unfortunate. We ended up having a 6-month listing lease with them that ended up expiring. During that 6 months, we had 3 people come see the house. That was it. And that included like 6 different open houses. I kid you not. People did not even come to our open houses. Not even looky-loo people who like just wanted to see what the house looked like inside. People didn't even just come walk in off the street. Like there was something super bizarre about that situation. And as someone who's really gotten into a little bit of like woo-woo manifestation, the universe is looking out for me kind of stuff as I've been building my business and as I've been trying to like manifest some great things as we move forward, there's something in me that really believes like there was something in the universe that was like, you guys are not meant to move right now, because we were planning on moving to Southern California at the time. And I think there was something that was just not going to be right about that. And I will probably never know for the rest of my life what exactly it was or what exactly it wasn't. But the fact that in 6 months, we only had 3 people come see our house, we got 0 offers, we had 0 interest, is just super bizarre. And yes, it was like a weird housing market in 2023. Totally get that. But at the same time, like, to have an open house and not even have like neighbors come in and want to see what the house looks like was just really bizarre. So we decided to obviously take the house back off the market. And we started to see a little bit of an uptick again at the beginning of 2024. Now, I've talked about this a little bit before, but 2024 for me was meant to be a year of consistency. Like, I wanted to get to December 31st and be like, I am freaking bored. I am bored doing the same thing over and over again. I am bored like mastering this webinar that I've been teaching. I am bored sending out emails. I am bored of everything that I am doing because I've been doing it so consistently and so well all year. That was literally my goal for the year. And we did not plan on listing the house in 2024. We thought we were going to maybe list the house again in 2025. We were going to give ourselves a good year of consistency, building the business, and figuring out what was going to happen. When things started to tick up in San Jose again at the beginning of 2024, we had already hired a new real estate agent. We had interviewed some people after things went really south with the last real estate agent group. And for me, I always like to have people in my pocket, like people on my team, right? So I like to have a local real estate agent. I like to have a lawyer. I like to have a financial advisor. I like to have a CPA. Like, I like to know that in my life and in my business, I have all those people who I can go tap for advice when something is coming up for me or for our lives or for the business. Are you frustrated by feeling like an outsider in your own industry? You're not alone. I spent years feeling the same way. Are you tired of endless research and you can only learn this stuff by getting a job in fashion advice? Me too. That's why I created the Business of Apparel online course. My years of insider knowledge condensed into video tutorials, demos, and downloads. Learn at your own pace, no fluff. Just key topics like building target profiles and mastering financials. This information is genuinely unavailable anywhere else. Grow your brand, become an apparel industry aficionado, and unlock millions in potential revenue. The value? Over $50,000 with millions potential for your brand. Don't miss out. Sign up for the Business of Apparel online course today at thebusinessofapparel.com/course. And so we already had a real estate agent that we had chosen through that interview process. And we reached out to him and kind of said, what do you think? And he was like, if I were you, I would do it. I would list. This is the schedule that I suggest you do it on. And we made the decision, I think it was on April 10th, to relist the house. We had the listing up. So the house was staged, photography was done, marketing was ready to go by April 29th. So in 19 days, less than 3 weeks, we had the house completely ready to go. We listed on April 29th and we had our offer in hand by May 8th. And so we signed that offer on May 9th and the clock started running. And so we had a 30-day close. We had an appraisal contingency on our house, which was always scary because if the appraisal doesn't come back, if you've never sold a house, it's kind of how it works. Like, if there are contingencies on it and the appraiser comes out and doesn't appraise the house at the listing price or the price that was offered to you, the buyers could come back and say, like, look, the house doesn't appraise at this price. So we either want it for cheaper or we want to rescind our offer. And that's usually built into some offers that you get. And this was built into ours. And so we had a 2-week appraisal contingency that we kind of had to wait for and make sure that the appraisal went through, and it did, which was great. And then we kind of went through the next 2 weeks organizing the move, getting ourselves ready, and figuring out all of the next steps. I flew out here to Colorado, found us a place to live in like 2 days, and we were able to make all of that happen. So we left California on June 5th. We had spent the previous 2 days with the movers. Alice Van Lines had come out. They spent 2 days packing up the house and packing up the truck and getting all of our stuff into their situation so that they could deliver it for us. And we got up in the morning on Wednesday, June 5th, and started our drive. We were both driving a car. So instead of shipping a car, we decided to both drive a car. We got walkie-talkies for the drive so that we could talk to each other without having to get on our phones, which was brilliant, by the way. So there's another tip for you. If you guys are driving separate cars, cross country or cross state, to do a move, I highly recommend walkie-talkies. It was like the most fun thing. And it was also so brilliant because anytime something happened, I didn't have to like fumble with my phone or pull over and figure out how to text him or call him or anything like that. I just picked up the walkie-talkie, pressed the button, and there he was. So that was brilliant. That is definitely something to look into if you're doing the similar thing. So we had 20 hours to drive from Santa Cruz to Superior, Colorado, which is where we are now, 20 hours. We were planning on doing 10 hours and 10 hours. So we were going to stop in St. George, Utah, which was about at the 10-hour mark. 5 hours into our drive, we had just passed Bakersfield, California. And my car, I had like my foot in the accelerator, and all of a sudden it just like started to slow down. And so we're like on the freeway. And if you've been just outside of Bakersfield at all before on the freeway, number one is super hilly. So we're driving uphill, like this super steep incline. There's traffic all around me. Everybody's like trying to chug up this hill. And that day it was 105 degrees in Bakersfield. So the car was super hot. We're trying to like chug this thing uphill. We've got every single valuable thing that we own in these two cars, because if you've ever moved before with a moving truck, because things do get broken and because our last move had been so bad and everything got broken, we wanted to bring all of our valuables with us. So that is another piece of advice that I can give you. If you have valuables, you can either tell your moving company, like, I have valuables and these are the things that I want you to specifically insure separately so that if they get broken, I can file a specific claim on the actual value of these high value items. Or like we did, you can pack them in your own cars and take them with you so that you don't have to worry about it. So that's what we did. We had two cars full of our valuables and the things that we wanted to take with us. They were full mostly because, right, I own my own business. And so we had a lot of like technology equipment, a lot of computers, a lot of things that you need to have to be able to run a business these days online. And so we wanted to have all of that stuff with us so that also if the moving truck ended up taking a little bit extra time, remember what happened with Mayflower with us, if they didn't deliver on time, I still had a way to get back to work if and when the time was right. So we just passed Bakersfield. We're 5 hours into the drive. My car all of a sudden just won't go. So I figure out a way to pull over into the shoulder. I walkie-talkie back to Kyle and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. The car won't go. We're like, okay, let's just figure out, will the car turn back on? So I was able to turn the car on and we started to like slowly go a little bit again. I'm thinking in my head, like, it's the heat and it's these hills. Even though my car is in really good shape, every time I take it in for service, like the dealership says how good of shape it's in, even though it is a 10-year-old car. But at the same time, like I had just had it serviced. Like they said that everything looked really good. And so anyway, so we get a little bit farther down the road. We've got like our hazards on because we're going pretty slow. I didn't want to like try to get back up to speed right away. And it happens again. So I pull back over into the shoulder. And this time when we're sitting in the shoulder, like we're walkie-talking back and forth with each other. And Kyle goes like, I can see an exit sign from here. Let's just get up to that exit. And so what we ended up doing is getting the car turned back on eventually. We got off at the exit and there's like a stoplight right there where you need to go, left or right. And we're trying to turn left to get to this gas station so we can just stop and figure out what to do. And so I'm sitting at this light and it stops. It just totally stops. And this time it won't restart. So this is also a truck exit. So there are like huge semi trucks, like just sitting behind us, honking their horns. Like I'm like throwing my hand out the window, like go past us. I can't turn my car back on. And so finally it does turn back on. We get to the gas station and we park and we didn't know what to do. So we call AAA. So I've got a AAA membership. I've had one since I was 16. It was actually my 16th birthday present from my dad, was a AAA card. So what we ended up doing was calling AAA. They said, we don't know what this issue could be, so we're going to tow you to the closest place that we can. So we said, well, is there an Audi dealership? I have an Audi A5. And so is there an Audi dealership anywhere nearby? And if we had gone another even like 30 minutes or an hour into our drive, there would have been no place good for us to go. But if we were willing to go just 40 minutes backwards, there was an Audi dealership in Bakersfield. So we told them to take us there. I call the Audi dealership in Bakersfield to let them know that we're coming. And they're like, well, do you know what time AAA is coming to tow you? Because we close in like an hour and a half. I was like, sweet. So AAA is supposed to pick us up in like 45 minutes. Based on the time of the drive and all of that stuff, we're looking at if AAA shows up on time, we are going to get there like right as they're getting ready to close. So I'm crossing my fingers, right? The AAA guy miraculously shows up on time. He's amazing. And we put the car up on the tow bed and he says, you guys just go get there. Make sure that you get there before they close. So we jump in the car. We start heading back to Bakersfield. Guys, these people were the nicest, most caring, most like I could not thank these people enough. If you are ever in Bakersfield and want to go buy a car, go to Audi Bakersfield because oh my God, they treated us so well there. When we finally showed up, they had figured out how to get us a car, like a loaner car, because we had all of our valuables in my car and I didn't want to leave them at the dealership. They had figured out how to get us a loaner car, even though that wasn't really a normal thing for them to do. We were able to transfer all of the valuables that were in my car to the loaner. The guy, Matt, who was amazing. Matt calls his wife while I'm sitting there to ask her, like, where's a good place for us to send them to a hotel? Like, we want to make sure that they're safe and that they're in a good hotel. She figures out the phone number of the place and helps me give them a call. Like, it was amazing help that we ended up getting there. And so Matt tells me there's nothing we can do tonight. We're closing, but we're jam-packed tomorrow in our schedule, but we're going to get you in first thing to check to see what's going on. You know, I told him the whole story. We're traveling cross country. We're moving from California to Colorado. Like, we don't really have a place to stay. What do we do? And so he was super sympathetic, incredibly helpful. First thing that next morning, they got the car in, they checked it out, they diagnosed it. We had our low pressure fuel pump that's in the fuel tank of the car had decided to stop working. And so it wasn't pumping fuel to the engine, which is why the engine wouldn't go when I tried to push down on the accelerator. We we were getting all of this different advice, right? Like, do we rent a car and drive all the way to Colorado and then fly back to Bakersfield, pick up the car, make the drive again? Like, for some reason, we had 3 different people suggest that to us. And then at the end of the day, what we decided to do, they were like, we're going to overnight apart. So this is Thursday now where they're checking the car. They've diagnosed the car. They're like, we can overnight apart for you and we can fix it tomorrow. And so we decided to stay in Bakersfield for those 3 days. And then we didn't get back going again until Saturday. And so Saturday, I think it was the 8th of June, we're figuring out how to get back going. We are nervous as hell the entire time that we're driving that something else is going to happen or that wasn't maybe the right fix. Maybe something else was wrong with the car. We decided to drive really long on Saturday because on Sunday, it was supposed to storm, like hailstorm in Colorado at 1 p.m. And so we wanted to make it into Superior by like noon on Sunday, which meant we needed to drive as far as we possibly could on Saturday. We drove, I think it was 12 hours to Grand Junction, Colorado on Saturday. Luckily, nothing went wrong. We had a much better drive that day. It was hot, and we had to stop a few times, obviously, for food and all of that good stuff. But we ended up making it to Grand Junction and spent the night there. And then we made the rest of the way to Colorado on that Sunday. And we were really concerned at the time. Our window of delivery ended up being like June 7th, which was a Friday that we were sitting in Bakersfield through the 17th. And so that was our delivery window. And we ended up having to like contact the moving company and make sure that they weren't going to be delivering on the 7th because we weren't going to be there. We also had to cancel a couple other things like internet and home security that we wanted to set up on the 7th, when like right after we had arrived. We had to cancel that. And so then we didn't have internet for like an entire week when we were here. And so it was really hard to get any work done or do anything once we arrived. This was definitely an adventure of a move for sure. If you are interested in any of my other moving tips, let me know. I offer this up to people all the time because we have moved so much and so few people take me up on it. But I have moving checklists. I have lots of different lists of like different places where you need to go change your address and what time, like how far out you should be doing certain things to make sure that your move goes smoothly. So if you're interested in any of that, you can definitely reach out to me. You can comment below this video in YouTube if you are watching on YouTube. And if you are listening, you can always go to unmarkedstreet.com/contact and ask me about anything. You can ask me about the move. You can ask me about my moving checklists. Please let me know. Obviously, if you also have questions about apparel, that is kind of the bread and butter. So I hope this helps you get to know me a little bit more. Starting next week, we are going into our 40 to 40 podcast episodes. We are going to have 6 different episodes where I'm going to be revealing things about me that I don't usually talk about. These are the kinds of things that, like, when you start a business and you realize that you're going to have to put yourself out there online, you're like, do I really have to tell people that? And while the answer is absolutely not, like if you're running a business or if you're thinking about starting a business and you want to get online and you want to have a presence, you get to choose what you share with people. But one thing that I've been really into as we've been building and growing Unmarked Street is real transparency and honesty and really just putting forward exactly who I am and exactly what I stand for. And so I feel like there's just a lot that can be learned by learning just that little bit more about me. So stay tuned for some of that is coming up. The 40 to 40 is the 40-day countdown to my 40th birthday. I turned 40 this year. And so we will be celebrating at the end of that series as well. If you liked this episode and you learned anything from it, or you just want to let me know how crazy we are for doing all of these insane moves, please leave us a review. You can comment on this episode if you are watching on YouTube, again, with anything that you want to say. We even welcome the negative comments because it means that somebody's watching. So go for it. We'd love to hear from you. And if there's anything else we can do, please let us know. Again, you can go to unmarkedstreet.com/contact and send me a note anytime. And thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, thebusinessofapparel.com, where I do weekly trainings through my YouTube video channel, a weekly newsletter, blog articles, and so many more resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand. This podcast is produced by Box 7 Media, who I cannot speak highly enough of. If you're looking to start your own podcast, you can reach out to Jeremy at Box 7 Media on LinkedIn anytime.